Well, good day, my friends. How are you all doing? It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. I put out on my social media, on the Facebook group, as well as on YouTube, an open call for questions or comments or anything you guys want to know about, and I was surprisingly overwhelmed with many questions, so I went ahead and saved a few of those, and I'm going to tell you all today. Thank you for participating, thank you for watching, and let's go ahead and do this. Daze with Jordan the Lion and you all. It begins right now. All right, so our first question came in. It said, I think I remember you briefly mentioning an encounter you had with Jeff Lynne, but no details. What's the rest of that story? And what are your thoughts on his contributions to music? Have you taken any steps to try and interview him? I've never met Jeff Lynne. Wasn't me. Never met him. And I mean, I've seen him live in concert and he was amazing. But as far as interviewing him, I don't know anybody connected to him to really do that, but I would love to. I would probably, as much as I love Electric Light Orchestra, I'd probably just want to talk to him about Traveling Wilburys a lot. I'm really fascinated by that whole project and how it came to be, and just, when you have that many egos, how they all work together. I'd love to hear the behind the scenes stories to that, but he's getting kind of old and I don't notice him doing too many interviews. I think he may have the opinion kind of like when I reached out to Willie Nelson's people and wanted to interview Willie. They basically said, Willie's said so many things over the years, he feels like there's nothing left to say, so he only does like one interview per album. So, yeah, it would be nice if I could, but yeah, I've never met him, so wasn't me. But thanks for the question. Next question is, do you still keep in touch with Leonard's family? I do. I hear from his mom from time to time, usually around holidays and things like that. It's one of those things. I knew him. I didn't know his family as well. I met them because of the passing of him. So it's always kind of one of those just, I don't know, awkward things for me. But yeah, anytime they reach out, I try and get back to him. And his mom's always super nice and everything like that. So, but yeah, I just, I don't like to, I feel like since they know me through their son's passing, when I reach out, it's kind of a reminder that he has passed and everything. So I just don't like to put people through that kind of stuff. I know how it was when I was a kid. My dad passed and, things like that. So great question, though. Thanks for asking about them. Next one is, what is the best celebrity you ever met? I'd have to say either, obviously Shelley Winters or Roddy Piper, because I became pretty good friends with them. Something about, their personality and mine, we just, from the moment we met, we kind of hit it off, and just always, whenever we saw each other, it was just like old friends. Never anything weird, or never, even with Shelley, like when I would ask her questions, coming from maybe a fan perspective, something I read in her book, she never looked at me as a fan. She looked at me as a friend and would just tell me like a friend would tell you, uninhibited. So thank you for the question. Next question is, what would you say would be one of your most incredible and unexpected items or artifacts you found in a museum? Maybe the first one that comes to mind is seeing the glasses that Buddy Holly was wearing when the plane crashed. Something about seeing the Buddy Holly story as a kid really always stuck with me. And so I've always had this fondness for Buddy Holly, and that's what got me into his music. So just seeing something that close to my face that was in that accident, and just knowing what those glasses, what his eyes saw through those glasses and things, it's just, I don't know, just one of those weird moments where you're like, wow. And even though it wasn't at a museum, I would say maybe what topped even that was when Scott Michaels and I were doing Route 66, and he said, hey, a friend of mine is the guy who found Carole Lombard's lost wedding ring. and he's going to meet up with us for breakfast if that's cool. And he brought them to show you, and I was like, whoa, or show us, you know. So that was probably the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, because reading about it in books and knowing, you know, the whole story behind that event, and then just thinking that something like that would never be found, and then to find out shortly before that someone had found it, and that I got to see it with my very own 2 eyes and hold it in my hands. I mean, I made a video of that showing that. That's probably the most incredible thing I've ever seen, honestly. Great question. Next is, what's your favorite trip you have been on? It would either be Mackinac Island with Katie to do Somewhere in Time filming locations, or it would be maybe going to the island of Capri and doing, it started in Naples with Clark Gable and Sophia Loren. Both of those were ultra special, but if I weren't counting, like, you know, those two, just as a trip that I didn't know what to expect, going to Portugal or Budapest were two of my favorite places that I've ever been, just because I was just, something about it resonated with me in a big way. So those would have to be some of my, I can't narrow it down to one, but those would be like 4 places that I would say. Thanks for the question. Next question. Let's see. What remaining wrestlers do you hope to see and maybe interview? Couldn't help but notice when you stood next to Hulk Hogan, you were taller. Yeah, he's dropped like 5 inches from, you know, in his vertebrae, just from doing all the leg drops and stuff over time. So yeah, he has shrunk a little bit. I'd love to interview Sting. I can't imagine that will probably ever get to happen. I would love to interview Dustin Rhodes, because he kind of started when I first started watching wrestling. So it's been a fun, you know, ride to watch him go on, and he's still doing it and still competing at a really high level, looking good, and, you know, just wondering how he goes about doing all of that. So that would be my choice right there. All right, sorry if it's a little noisy outside. All of a sudden the neighbor's lawnmower kicked on, so we're gonna have to deal with a little bit of that. Nothing I can do about that one. Next question, have you thought of visiting the northeast part of the US this summer? Yeah, potentially. I'd like to get up to Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, a little bit more Massachusetts. Definitely would like to get back over to Long Island and visit my friend in Staten Island. So I'm hoping to do that. I don't know if it'll be in the summer or when exactly it'll be, but I am hoping to do that. Great question. Next question was, any update on the solar panels? Yeah, well, when I reached out after I made my video, everybody was like, hey, contact the person that did the home inspection. So I contacted them, and they said, well, actually, in the state that you live in, the solar panel inspection is not part of a home inspection. He goes, I throw that in as an extra, and all I do is tell you whether it's working or not. And at the time that I inspected it, it was working. He said, and it obviously was, because you said it, you know, you just started having problems a few months ago. So I said, yeah. He goes, no, who you want to talk to is building services, because you know, what we found out from what everybody that inspected it said was it was a design flaw in the installation. So it was, the inspector said, you need to call building services for your county or your city, because they're the ones that approved it when it shouldn't have been approved. And when I called them, they said, well, it's been 7 years, so we've had storms since then. We're not gonna cover that. And I go, but that would have nothing to do with it being a design flaw from the beginning that caused it to have water damage. And they said, well, we're not gonna cover it. You'll have to take us to court for that. So that was basically where it stood. I'm just kind of deciding, should I reach out to my homeowner's insurance and tell them that's what all was said and just kind of go from there, or just bite the bullet? And I mean, it's like almost $8,000. So it's kind of a crazy amount of money when I shouldn't have to pay that. The warranty should have all covered that, and everybody involved in the warranty is passing the buck. Even, you know, the people that issued the warranty aren't even in business, but it goes back to the whole thing should never have been approved to be installed to begin with, and that's the city's fault. So good luck going against the city, right? Next question. Do you plan on visiting Vegas again? Yeah, I'm always going back to Vegas. I have really good friends there, so, you know, every couple months I'm looking to get back. I'm not sure when I'll get back right now, but I do plan on going back to Vegas, so. Next question is, is there a particular location that you'd like to revisit, and what inspired you to do the celebrity graves? Well, when I was young and I was in elementary school, my stepdad had a work trip out to Los Angeles, and my mom had always wanted to go, so she went with him. And while they were out there, all she wanted to do was go see celebrity graves. So when she came home, she had all the maps from those. And I was just kind of fascinated by hearing her talk about being able to go see all these famous graves and looking at the map, and you know, so that was one of the things I always said, oh, if I ever get to Los Angeles, the main thing I want to do is go see celebrity graves. So when I started doing my channel, I've been going to celebrity graves long before I was ever vlogging and, you know, posting photos on Instagram and all that stuff. But I just decided when I started vlogging, that would be something I could, you know, do, is share a grave for people like me that like them and try and tell something notable or something good that they did for the world, something nice that they left behind. So that's what I've always tried to do with my celebrity grave videos. Next question. I have a lot of questions, so I tried to squeeze in as many as I thought I would be able to do. What would be an ideal movie that you would want to do a location on and take us to where it was filmed? Right now, I really want to go do Purple Rose of Cairo, the Woody Allen movie starring Mia Farrow, Danny Aiello, and Jeff Daniels. I love that movie, and I was watching it recently, and I was like, where's that filmed? And I realized that one of the main buildings for it, they built specifically for the movie. And when I went and started looking on all the road maps and Google Earthing it and everything, and found the street that I thought it was, I was able to match up the houses beside it and to see what it looks like now. And I was like, that would be fun. It's, you know, it's not a location I think anybody's done before, or probably many people care about, but I'm hoping that, you know, that's what I like about doing the locations, is doing ones that people haven't really done before. So I think it just gets monotonous if everybody's just doing the same one. So even though people probably won't know this movie too well, I still want to do it. That would be my top choice right now. Next question. Are you going to be doing more baseball content? I always try and squeeze in a couple of new stadiums a year. The league itself is really kind of ruining the game for me. I feel like they're just really letting the spending get out of control and the stacking of teams. So it's, I don't know. Like I said, I like to see the parks and I like to have that experience and stuff, but it's so hard to root for one team, or to, you know, to feel like you're rooting for a team when the players are just changing so often. So I will try and squeeze in some new parks this year. I definitely would like to get to maybe the ones in Texas. Where else? Colorado, maybe. We'll see. I'm going to do my best. Next question. Like I said, we had a lot. What is the worst interaction with the celebrity you've ever had? I would say probably Slim Jim Phantom. When I got invited to go do one of those winery filmings, the person that invited me introduced me to Slim Jim and was basically trying to set up an interview. He was like, hey, Slim, this guy makes these really great videos. You should do a video with him and let him, you know, ask you questions and stuff about the Cat Club. And he's like, I don't need him, man. What, you think I need somebody else to help promote me? I know what I'm doing. I don't need him. If I want to do a freaking podcast, I'll do a podcast. And the person was like, no, I mean, he just has a built-in audience, and it'd be a whole new set of people to, you know, to kind of find out about you. And he was like a kid sneaking into the Cat Club, so he thought he might have some questions. Look, man, if I want to do it, I'll do it. I'll do it on my terms. I'll put together my own podcast, and that's it, man. And just like stormed off. And his girlfriend was like, oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, I just thought he came off like a real arrogant jerk. So whenever anybody asks, I'm more than happy to tell them that story, since that's the way he acted. Next question. Who have you met that left you the most starstruck? Probably Eddie Van Halen. And I think he left me the most starstruck because he was the most famous while still being the most down to earth. He talked to me like a normal person and like just talked to me like Jordan Eddie, like not like I'm Eddie Van Halen guitar god, you know. And some people give you that vibe when you meet him when they're not even close to his celebrity. So I think I was always just amazed when I met him how much fun it was to talk to him and how I didn't feel like a burden, and I felt like he enjoyed our conversation. So that to me made him even cooler. Next question. If Pete Rose gets a pardon, how do you feel about him finally getting into the Hall of Fame, or would it really matter? I don't think it really matters. Everybody knows how great of a hitter he was, and everybody knows why he's not in. I think if he gets in, there'll be always some people that are mad that he got in, because then they'll feel like the rules don't matter. And if he doesn't get in, there'll be a whole lot of people that say the greatest hitter in the game in MLB stats, you know, Ichiro probably has better stats overall, but Pete Rose had the most in Major League Baseball, in MLB. So how do you have somebody that has the best hitting stats for MLB not be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame? So I just think, like I said, I think everybody knows he belongs in there, whether he is or not. I know he would have liked that, so for that reason, I hope they do it. But if they don't, I'll totally understand why. And I do think at some point, some way, someone will reverse it and he will be in. Whether it's in our lifetime or not, who knows? Next question. That's a good question, though. All-time favorite vlog and places that have you visited and turned out to be a letdown. Kind of Beetlejuice, because Beetlejuice was just like, you don't realize, like seeing the movie, you want to see that part where the Maitlands go to the hardware store and all that, but you don't really take into consideration that almost all of the movie is done on a soundstage. So when you get there, it's like, imagine parking in a parking lot and then looking across the street and just seeing 3 houses and then a turn, and that's basically what they filmed. And you're like, oh, wow, I was expecting like to see this town, but it's really just like, you know, I don't know how to describe it other than that. Almost like if you walked out your own front door and just looked at 3 houses across the street and you were like, okay, that's all that was. That's all there is. You know, because the storefronts are all like, they put up new storefronts for the second movie. In the first movie, the fronts were completely deteriorated. So that was probably my one that I drove the furthest for. And then when I got there, I was like, it's cool to see, but it doesn't feel like what I thought it would feel like. Next question. My wife and I are going to California in August. Any recommendations on good pizza? Yeah, go to Vito's Pizza on La Cienega. La Cienega between Melrose and Santa Monica. Vito's Pizza. VITO''S. I've been going there since I moved to Hollywood. It used to be in a different location, but it's the same place, and Vito himself works in that location. Next question. What's one of your favorite items you bought in an antique store? I have this big picture of Francis X. Bushman, of them promoting him coming to a town, to like a theater to promote his movies. And it's really oversized and kind of crazy, but I just happen to always be drawn to Francis X. Bushman's story from the silent movies, and I own some of his personal belongings. So when I saw that, I was like, I'm like the one buyer in the world that's meant for. So that's probably my favorite thing. Next question. Any chance of you doing another collaboration with Lunel? Probably not. Lunel is the busiest person I know. She would probably be willing to do it. It's just us ever being in the same place at the same time. She's on the go like that, like every day. She's filming something or going somewhere to perform. She never stops, so it'd be really hard to do. We do keep in touch though. Next question. How's your little man and sidekick doing? He's doing great. I just haven't been taking him because I've been going to stores and things like that, so it's not really something he can do. But when I get back on the road traveling, he'll be with me again, so you guys will see him. But he's here. He's walking around as we speak. Next question. I love watching all your videos. Have you ever been or videotaped the Polk Theater in Lakeland, Florida? Elvis performed there in the 50s, and they say he signed the wall in the dressing room. I have been there, but I did not go back and get to see that. I went when my friend Gene Odom was there doing a presentation and doing a memorial about Leonard Skinner and the crash and everything. So I have made a video there about that with Leonard Skinner, those guys talking, but I didn't get to go backstage and see that. Maybe in the future I can align that and get somebody to let me in and do that. That'd be a great idea. Thank you. I totally forgot that that was there. Next and last question. Robbie Foster said, any chance you'd sell the Dallas autograph picture you got a few weeks ago? Sure. I found out it's not really autographed. It was something the very first season that the studio sent out. So it's all pre-printed. I paid 10 bucks for it. If you want it, just send me 10 bucks on PayPal with your address and I'll send it to you. That was all of our questions. Thank you. There were a ton more, but I just, I tried to grab as many that were, not, my family doesn't want to be talked about, so I don't want to do those kind of things. So other than that, thank you for watching, and I will see you down the road. I hope I answered your question or was able to help you out with something odd you wanted to know about me. Have a great night, everyone, and goodbye.